Hello everyone, welcome to our fifth and last practical in the upper limb module. This is Dr. Ghazali, teaching assistant at the Department of Anatomy, Faculty of Medicine, University of Khartoum. In today's practical session, we will demonstrate the hand, including intrinsic muscles of the hand, orientation of tendons, neurovascular structures of the hand. Let's go to our first practical. In the first station of our practical, we will identify the hand region, then talk about the dorsum of the hand, then we will talk about the carpal tunnel. The hand is the most distal part of the upper limb. It is the area below the wrist joint. It is composed of this surface, which is called the palm of the hand, and this surface, which is called the dorsum of the hand, right? In the palm of the hand, we have got this area called the thenar, and laterally the thenar, and medially this area called the hypothenar. We have got the digits, and in between them we have got the web spaces. Okay, the same goes in the dorsum of the hand. Okay, all right. General features: the skin over the dorsum of the hand is thin and it is freely mobile. Okay, while the skin over the palm of the hand is thick, not mobile, and it is characterized by the flexor creases. Flexor creases. Okay, and also there is a structure called the papillary ridge for grip. All right. This is general view of the hand region. Regarding the dorsum of the hand, very superficially beneath the skin, we find these structures. They are called the dorsal venous network. Blood to the hand ultimately is drained by the dorsal venous network that drains laterally to the cephalic vein. Laterally to the cephalic vein and medially to the basilic vein. All right. In the dorsum of the foot, the dorsum of the hand, sorry, you can see the tendons of the extensor muscles, right? And also here you can find this fleshy red part is the dorsal interosseous muscles. Okay, these knuckles is the area of the metacarpophalangeal joints. In this area, the extensor tendons forms a structure called the extensor expansion. This extensor expansion provide insertion for the interosseous muscles and the lumbaricals. The arrangement in the extensor expansions, as we said, in the base of the proximal phalanx, attached the interossei and the lumbaricals. We will see them following the practical. Then the tendon of the extensor muscle has got two lips in the peripheries and one in the central. The one in the central is inserted into the base of the middle phalanx, while the two lips in the peripheries insert into the base of the distal phalanx. This formation is called the extensor expansion. Regarding the innervation of the dorsum of the hand, it is shared 2.5 from branches of the radial nerve, while the medial 2.5 from the ulnar nerve. Okay. The area of the nail bed is not supplied from the dorsal branches. It is supplied from the palmar branches of the nerves. Okay. So the dorsum of the foot, 2.5 laterally from the radius, except in the nail bed, and medially 2.5 from the ulnar, except in the nail bed. Okay. Okay. Now let's move again to palmar surface of the hand, and in this part we are interested in this structure. This is called the flexor retinaculum. The flexor retinaculum is a thickening of the fibrous band. It is 2 to 3 centimeters, attached laterally to the scaphoid bone and the trapezium, and medially to the pisiform and to the hook of the hamate. So it is 2 to 3 centimeter in the transverse diameter. The flexor retinaculum forms with the concavity of the carpal bones. Together they form a tunnel called the carpal tunnel. So the carpal tunnel is formed by the flexor retinaculum and the concavity of the carpal bones. If we can see the tunnel by passing this, okay, you can see it is a tunnel that's formed by the flexor retinaculum. Okay. To see the contents of the carpal tunnel, we will have to move to the next specimen. Thank you. Now, to see the contents of the carpal tunnel, in this specimen we have removed the flexor retinaculum. Our first set is the tendons of the flexor digitorum superficialis, and immediately below it are the tendons of flexor digitorum profundus, right? Tendons of the flexor digitorum superficialis, tendons of the flexor digitorum profundus. These 8 tendons share a common synovial sheath, and the 4 tendons of the flexor digitorum superficialis arranged in 2 rows, with the middle and the ring in front of the index and the little finger. Okay. Our second structure is this nerve, which is the median nerve. The median nerve passes below the flexor retinaculum, and it is one of the content of the carpal tunnel. After passing the carpal tunnel, it gives muscular branch and a digital branch for the 3.5 finger. As you can see, those are the digital branches of the median nerve, right? Our other tendon that pass in the carpal tunnel is this tendon. This is the tendon of the flexor pollicis longus muscle, and the most lateral one is the tendon of the flexor carpi radialis muscle, right? There are several structures that passes in front of the flexor retinaculum. The first one is the tendon of palmaris longus that attached to the palmar aponeurosis. It passes in front of the flexor retinaculum and it's not one of the contents. The other two structures are the radial artery and nerve. If we follow these structures under the flexor carpi ulnaris, we find them pass superficial to the flexor retinaculum but folded in a fascia called Guyon's fascia to form the Guyon's canal. So, the ulnar artery and nerve are not considered part of the flexor of the carpal tunnel. Also, the median nerve has got a superficial branch that innervate the skin over the thinner area, passes in front of the carpal of the flexor retinaculum. So, those are the components of the carpal tunnel. That's all for this station. Let's move to the other one. In this station, we will see the Polymer of Neurosis and the fiber flexors sheath and the arrangement of the tendons. After reflecting the skin of the palm, we immediately encounter this thickened structure of fascia. This is called the Polymer of Neurosis. Polymer of Neurosis is thickening of the deep fascia of the hand, reinforced by fibers from the palmaris longus and transverse fibers from fascia of the area. It is triangular in shape with its apex attached proximally to the flexor retinaculum, and it has got slips that merge with the thenar and the hypothenar fascia, and distally it diverge into 4 lips, digital lips. Okay, so it's a triangular in shape. Its apex attached to the flexor retinaculum laterally and medially to the thenar and the hypothenar fascia, and 4 digital lips. The distal area of attachment of the Polymer of Neurosis is a ligament called the superficial transverse metacarpal ligament. It is a ligament that attaches the metacarpal heads in the metacarpopharyngeal joint. So, transverse metacarpal, superficial transverse metacarpal ligament. All right. After reflecting the Polymer of Neurosis, we see this view. Immediately we find the superficial palmar arch and digital vessels and nerves. Then we will see the tendons and the thenar group of muscles and the hypothenar group of muscles. Now, let's see the flexor fibrous sheath in the next specimen. The next structure that we would like to demonstrate in this station is called the fibrous flexor sheath. The fibrous flexor sheath is a tunnel, fibro-osseous tunnel, that provide a passage for the flexors tendons. Okay, so it's a fibrous that's attached to the metacarpal bones up to the distal phalanx that lodge the flexor tendon. Okay, in the 4 digits, it contains the 2 tendons of the flexor digitorum superficialis and the tendon of the flexor digitorum profundus. The flexor fibrous sheath starts at the metacarpophalangeal joint, and it is composed of annular fibers and a cruciform fibers. The annular fibers is found at the metacarpophalangeal joint, the middle of the proximal phalanx, in the proximal interphalangeal joint, and in the middle of the middle phalanx. In between the annular fibers, we find the cruciform fibers. So we have got 4 annular fibers, and in between them, the cruciform fibers. Inside the tunnel, we find the 2 tendons of the flexors of the fingers, flexor digitorum superficialis and the flexor digitorum profundus. Both of them are involved in one synovial sheath. Regarding the arrangement of the tendons, as you can see here, the tendon of the flexor digitorum superficialis separates into 2 lips, and between them passes the tendon of the flexor digitorum profundus. The 2 lips of the flexor digitorum superficialis are attached to the base of the medial phalanx, while the tendon of the flexor digitorum profundus attached to the base of the distal phalanx. So, as the function, the profundus causes flexion of the distal interphalangeal joint, while the flexor digitorum superficialis causes flexion of the proximal interphalangeal joint. All right? This is all regard the fibrous flexor sheath and the arrangement of the tendons inside it. Now, in the next station, we will see the muscles. In the third station of our practical, we will demonstrate the intrinsic muscles of the hand. As we said, they are generally arranged into a lateral group of muscle called the thenar eminence and a medial group called the hypothenar eminence. Then we will see the lumbaricals, the interossei and the adductor of the finger. Our first group is the thenar eminence, in which we have got 3 muscles. The first one is this one, is the abductor pollicis brevis. Immediately medial to it is the flexor pollicis brevis, and deep between them we find opponens pollicis. All the 3 muscles share a common origin, which is the flexor retinaculum, and they also share a common innervation, which is the recurrent branch of the median nerve. Okay. Our first muscle is the abductor pollicis longus. As we said, it originates from the flexor retinaculum, the scaphoid muscle, the scaphoid bone, and the trapezium. It is inserted into the radial aspect of the base of the proximal phalanx. Okay. As its name implies, it is an abductor of the thumb. The other muscle is this one. It is the flexor hallucis brevis. It originates from the flexor retinaculum and the trapezium, and by another head from the trapezoid. It is also attached to the radial aspect of the base of the proximal phalanx. Again, as its name implies, it's a flexor of the thumb. Okay. Deep in between them, we find opponent's pollicis. Opponent's pollicis also takes an origin from the flexor retinaculum. The third muscle is the opponent's pollicis, that is found in between the abductor pollicis brevis and the flexor pollicis brevis. In between them, we find the opponent's pollicis. Again, it takes an origin. It takes an origin from the flexor retinaculum, and it is attached on the whole metacarpal, first metacarpal bone, the whole range of the metacarpal bone. To see the actions of these muscles, abduction of the thumb, and this is flexion of the thumb. Okay. All right. As we said, all of them are innervated by the recurrent branch of the median nerve. Now, let's see the hypothenar group. The most medial one is the abductor digiti minimi, flexor abductor digiti minimi, flexor digiti minimi brevis, and in between them opponents digiti minimi. All of them are innervated by the deep branch of the ulnar nerve. Okay. The abductor digiti minimi originate from the pisiform and from the tendon of the flexor carpi ulnaris. It is attached to the ulnar side of the base of the proximal phalanx. The flexor digiti minimi brevis attached from the hook of the hamate to be attached again in the radial side of the base of the proximal phalanx, while the opponent's digiti minimi attached through the whole of the fifth metacarpal bone. Okay. Again, they are all innervated by the deep branch of the ulnar nerve. Okay. Our next group of muscles is the lumbaricals. The lumbaricals are 4 in number. Our next muscle is the adductor pollicis. The adductor pollicis arises in 2 heads, a transverse head and an oblique head. The oblique head arises from the base of the second and the third metacarpal bones, while the transverse head arises from the whole length of the third metacarpal bone. It is attached on the medial aspect of the base of the proximal phalanx of the thumb. Its main action is adduction of the thumb. Adduction. It is innervated by the deep branch of the ulnar nerve. Right? Our next set of muscles are the lumbaricals. This one, and this one, and this one. They are 4 in number. They takes an origin from the tendon of the flexor digitorum profundus tendon. The lateral 2 lumbaricals are unipinnate, only one pinna of muscles. unipinnate, unipinnate, while the ulnar two lumbricals are bipinnate, takes an origin from each tendon. Those are bipinnate. The insertion of the lumbricals is dorsally into the extensor expansion above the base of the proximal phalanx, into the extensor expansion. The action of the lumbricals is mainly to maintain extension of the proximal and distal interphalangeal joint, while other muscles are in action. So, another point in the lumbricals is the innervation. The lumbricals muscle takes nerve supply. The two lateral are from the median nerve, while the two medials are from the ulnar nerve. So, the same as the flexor digitorum profundus from which it is arises. The lateral two lumbricals from the median nerve, while the medial two lumbricals from the ulnar nerves. The last set of muscles in the intrinsic muscles is the interosseous muscles. Interossei are of two groups, palmar interossei and a dorsal interossei. The dorsal interossei are clearer to see. Their function is to abduct the digits. Our axis is the third finger. Abduct, moving them away from the third finger. Okay. The dorsal interossei are 4 in number, and they are bipinnate. So they takes an origin from each metacarpal in their metacarpal spaces. Okay. The palmar interossei found deep. They are 3 in number. Their main function is to adduct the digits. So they are 3 in numbers, 1 for the index in the ulnar side, and 2 for the ring and the little finger, to adduct them into our axis, which is the third bone. All interossei are innervated by the ulnar nerve. So, regarding the muscles and their innervations, the thinner group of muscles, all of the 3 are innervated by the median nerve. All 3 hypothenars are innervated by the ulnar nerve. The lumbricals is divided, the lateral 2 from the median and the medial 2 from the ulnar nerve. All interossei are from the ulnar nerve, and the adductor pollicis is innervated with the ulnar nerve. That's all for the intrinsic muscles of the hand. In the last and the fourth station of our practical, we will demonstrate the neurovasculature of the hand. Blood supply of the hand is derived from the ulnar artery and branches of the radial artery. The ulnar artery found under the muscle flexor carpi ulnaris. Here you can see it entering the Guyon's canal, and its continuation is the superficial palmar arch. So this is the superficial palmar arch. The superficial palmar arch gives origin into 3 common palmar arteries. This is common palmar artery This is a common palmar artery, and this is the third common palmar artery. Each one of the two common palmar artery divides into two digital branches to cover the web space and the surrounding. So this one divides into proper digital artery and another proper digital artery. This one divides into proper digital artery and another proper digital artery. This one also bifurcates into two proper digital arteries. Okay, so the common palmar, the superficial palmar branch supplies the 3.5 fingers by the digital arteries. The digital arteries of the rest 1.5 is from branches of the radial artery. So this is the radial artery passing deep in the anatomical snuff box. Then it passes between the two heads of the first interosseous muscle. Here between it and the adductor muscle, it gives two branches. They are not visible here. One, which is called the princeps pollicis, and radial indicis. The radial indicis supplies the radial aspect of the index, and the princeps pollicis supplies the two sides of the thumbs. Okay. Then the artery, the radial artery itself, forms the deep palmar arch, and the deep palmar arch provide the metacarpal arteries. The metacarpal arteries anastomose with the common digital arteries and the proper digital arteries. Okay, so the blood supply from the superficial arch arises the common digital arteries, which bifurcate into proper digital arteries. The deep palmar arch provide the metacarpal arteries. Okay, that is all regarding the blood supply of the hand. Regarding the innervation, this structure that pass deep in the the carpal tunnel is the median nerve. The median nerve, after passing, it gives a recurrent muscular branch for the thinner eminence. Then it provides digital branches for the radial 3.5 digits. So it supplies the 3.5 digits and the muscles of the thinner. Also, the median nerve has got a superficial branch that supplies the skin over the thinner area. The other nerve is the ulnar nerve. The ulnar nerve passes into the Guyon's canal. Again, it gives a digital branch, 1.5 for the little finger and half of the ring, and it also gives a deep branch for the muscles, the hypothenares, the medial lumbricals, all interossei, and the adductor muscle. It also gives a superficial branch that supply a small muscle here called palmaris brevis, and also supplies the skin over the hypothenar area. Okay. That is all. Again, the digital branches of the nerve also supplies the nail bed posteriorly. That's all for the neurovascular structures of the hand. Thank you.